सर्वसंघातो जगत्कष्टोरिति द्विधा त्रैवामृगया पुरुषो नेति नेति व्यतत्यजम्
Ladies.
देहस्तु सर्वसंघातो जगत्कष्टोरिति द्विधा त्रैवामृगया पुरुषो नेति नेति व्यतत्यजम्.
Word-to-word meaning, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Deha, the body, tu, but, Sarva Sanghata, the combination of all the 24 elements, Jagat, seen to be moving, Tastuhu, and standing in one place, Iti, thus, Vidha, two kinds, Atra eva, in this matter, Mrigayaha, to be searched for, Purushaha, the living entity, the soul, na, not, iti, thus, na, not, iti, thus, iti, in this way, atat, what is not spirit, tyajan, giving up. Translation: there are two kinds of bodies for every individual soul: a gross body made of 5 gross elements and a subtle body made of 3 subtle elements. With these bodies, however, is the spirit soul. Within these bodies, however, is the spirit soul. One must find the soul by analysis, saying, "This is not it, this is not it." Thus, one must separate spirit from matter. Purport. As previously stated, Swaranam yatha graveshu hemah karah kshetreshu yogastad abhyaga apyunyat. An expert in the study of soil can find out where gold is and then dig there. He can then analyze a stone and test the gold with nitric acid. Similarly, one must analyze the whole body to find within the body the spirit soul. In studying one's own body, one must ask himself whether his head is his soul, his fingers are his soul, his hand is his soul, and so on. In this way, one must gradually reject all the metal elements and combinations of metal elements in the body. Then, if one is expert and follows the Acharya, he can understand that he is a spiritual soul living within the body. The greatest Acharya, Krishna, begins his teachings in Bhagavad Gita by saying, Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavanam jara tatha dehantarah prapti dhiras tatrah namuhyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. Bhagavad Gita 2.30. The spirit soul possesses the body and is within the body. And this is the real analysis. The soul never mixes with the bodily elements. Although the soul is within the body, it is separate and always pure. One must analyze and understand his self. This is self realization. Neti Neti is the analytical process of rejecting matter. By expertly conducting such an analysis, one can understand where the soul is. One who is not expert, however, cannot distinguish gold from earth nor soul from the body. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथां वितां तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यं हरे कृष्ण welcoming all of you for this today's Independence Day Bhagavatam lecture, which we are having here. Um, so before I begin, I seek blessings from all the assembled Vaishnavas, senior devotees, and seek for their blessings so that I can repeat Srimad Bhagavatam, this very um, intense, confidential topics of Srimad Bhagavatam with utter humility. And may I do this for the pleasure of all the devotees, for glorification of Shri Shri Radha Gopi Vallabha, and for my own purification. So this section is spoken by Prahlad Maharaj, and he is preaching to his friends. In the previous chapter, instead of spending time in the um, wasting time at during the lunch breaks, he is preaching that you should take to Krishna consciousness right now, not delay. Don't think that after I enjoy my boyhood, then youthhood, then after that I'll come to Krishna consciousness. But he says right now, at the age of 5, one should begin his bhakti, and he gives a whole analysis of how one spends his whole life um, doing so many things, and thus ultimately at the end of the whole thing, what he's remaining with is if he does not practice bhakti, if he does not take to Krishna consciousness, then life is so uh, worthless. And then he says that there are various instructions that the Lord has given, and he repeats all of that. And then he explains how the Supreme Personality of Godhead is who is he, what is his relationship, and what are his qualities, and how to satisfy the Lord. He says, give up demoniac nature and act without enmity or duality and show mercy to all the living entities. So, when all the demoniac um, kids they hear all this uh, super direct information from Prahlad, they get intrigued that we all are studying in the same school and we have the same professor, the same teachers. How come Prahlad, he is having such immense knowledge which he is sharing with us? And they ask, where did you learn from all this? Because we are learning all of this from Shanda and Amarka, whatever we have learned, politics, economics, but you are speaking some things beyond that. Where have you learned that? And then he says in this seventh chapter, he's answering this question of the schoolmates by telling that how when Hiranyakashipu went for penance for 10,000 years, then seeing a palace bereft of the king, the demigods they attacked and they plundered all the riches of that whole palace and also captured the wife of Hiranyakashipu. And they were thinking that, well, this Hiranyakashipu is so powerful and so demoniac. And what to speak if his sons also do the same? If this one person we are unable to handle, but what to speak of when his sons take the responsibility of his dynasty? So, taking that into consideration, they came and they captured his wife who was pregnant and they were tracking her to basically kidnapping her and uh, arrested her and she was not okay about it, obviously. She was crying, she was wailing, and um, s- to her, to give her some security, comes an Narad Muni. And Narad Muni comes from nowhere and he says, well, this person whom you're taking, this person who's within the womb of this lady, he's not a normal person. He's not a demon, first of all, and he's not a normal person. And he is really a great devotee. So Indra was thinking that we will not do anything to this lady, and neither we will um, kind of bother her till the time she is pregnant. But when the child comes out, we want to kill that child. But then Narad Muni told, see, this child is spotless, sinless, and a great devotee. You can't kill him. And that was the truth. No one could kill Prahlad Maharaj. Even the highest of the powers of the planet at that time, he who overpowered every other power, he could not kill this one kid, one child. So when Narad Muni told you cannot kill him, now what options that they remained with? They just released her. And Narad Muni thought that it may so happen that she might be an easy target for many. So he brought her to his ashram and he was giving the knowledge which Prahlad Maharaj is speaking. So when all this knowledge was given to Prahlad Maharaj, who was within the womb of the mother. And the irony is, although the mother was hearing from her ears, she could remember nothing, none of the instructions. Srimad Bhagavatam mentions why she could not remember. The 16th verse talks about it. Because, number one, this knowledge that is delivered in spiritual knowledge, it is actually very volatile. It is very volatile. Volatile means, you know, it will remain till the time we are in touch with it. And as soon as we lose the touch, that vaporizes, it just goes away. So that's the reason, it was a long time that she had heard from Narad Muni. And because it was long time that she had heard that, because of that, she kind of forgot the concepts, forgot the instructions. And also, Srimad Bhagavatam explains that she was little less intelligent because she was attached to her husband. Um, she was always meditating and contemplating about her husband. when will he come back? So she was not able to focus um, on the very divine teachings. So, whenever the divine teachings are given, one has to be at the divine platform to understand it. If one is having any attachments with the material um, body, then it will not be sinking in. So, but Prahlad Maharaj was there within the womb and he was very much attentive. And everything that was coming in, he was able to just kind of like a sponge, dry sponge, one drop of water pulls and it just soaks it. So, like that, he was soaking all the instructions of Narad Muni. And further, giving this background, Prahlad Maharaj from verse 17 through 28, he's kind of giving 17 onwards, he's giving lots of instructions on the spirit soul. So, this particular section is talking about the spirit soul, where Prahlad Maharaj goes into more details that the spirit soul does not undergo any changes, although the material body undergoes changes. The material body undergoes six changes, and that which is not having life, that will undergo only three changes. So, three changes is beginning, dwindling, and finished, death, right? For anything that is material, death means it is like finished, it is broken. But the spiritual soul, it is not going any changes. It remains Sachidananda um, forever. But when there is material body, which is having connection with the soul, that undergoes six changes: birth, growth, um, what is that? Production of byproducts, dwindling, and death, and maintenance also. So these six changes are there, just like any tree, flower, fruits, all of that will undergo. So one should be focused towards not the soul, and that is known as Atma Sakshatkar, self-realization. So he gives an example of, as Prabhupada also quoted in this purport, about the geologist who is looking forward for getting gold, extracting gold. But when he is doing that, he has to remove lots of dirt. Lots of dirt. So there are similarly in this verse it is mentioned that when one is wanting to understand the soul, he has to remove lots of other conceptions, that I am not the eye, I am not the ear, I am not the nose, who am I? So this is a thing that an activity that we do in the beginning for the students who come and touch. We kind of ask them, okay, how do we understand I'm not this body, I'm soul? Anyone, like, you're traveling in the flight or connecting to people anywhere around and someone just asks some basic questions. So we can kind of easily, very nicely explain them this concept of soul by asking the simple questions, which Srimad Bhagavatam here is explaining the same thing that Prahlad Maharaj is teaching. So, first thing, basic logics, like um, we say, right, the person is mm, there, the body is there, but the soul is not there. So, for explaining that, it's very simple. We can generally say that, right? That if there is a person who is lying, and thank you, and a girl is crying, a father is gone, a father is gone, a father is gone. But 2 minutes before, the father is speaking, Beta, take care of your health when I leave and do your regular dosage of medications and everything. But then after 2 minutes, that person is not speaking. Chemically speaking, that there is no change. So what is the only change? That the the soul has gone. But just I mean, just with this, it becomes sometimes difficult for the new people to understand. Then we can speak one more thing, like, every time we see a mirror, we see our eyes, our hands, our ears, whatever, our head. But can we see yourself? Can you see yourself? So then it becomes, little more deeper. What is that yourself? And then, when another question is like, these are my fingers, this is my hand, this is my arm. But who is this me who is speaking all this? So that is what is like, the same principle, that we come to this conclusion that I am much more deeper than just what is visible. And this is something that is so rare. So many people are there in this Commonwealth Avenue, but how many people are even thinking of this concept even once, that who am I? Everyone is bothering about the body, which is temporary, and they are simply wasting their lives, taking care of that, which is anyways going to dwindle and die. So, the question is, why does one get into this um, illusion that I am this body, I am not the soul? There's an illusion. The truth is, I am not this body, I am the soul. But hardly anyone is on that platform of truth. Why it is so? It is because of avidya. Shastra explains, because of avidya, one gets into the zone of illusion and starts identifying oneself to be the body. So, because of lack of knowledge, lack of absolute knowledge, one does not get the understanding of the absolute truth. And because of that, one goes into that darkness that, okay, I am the body, and starts identifying with the body. When one starts identifying with the body, then that is known as the false ego. So, when one is in false ego, one is not able to understand the truth as it is and is wanting to go and do lots of things with whatever he identifies with. So, that's the reason there are, first of all, he identifies with his body. He identifies with his hairstyle, his beard style, his style of wearing clothes and being visible to the people at large. Then he starts identifying with his family, husband, wife, children, mother, father, sister, brother, and then the extended family, because then there is mama, poopa, jija, whatever, uncles, relatives. In English, it is so simple. Say uncle and auntie, everyone is included in that. But so many relationships are there actually. So he kind of extended relationship, extended family becomes his identity. And then he identifies with further identities, caste, creed, religion, culture, background, state, language. So many associations are there. Um, uh, every language might be having their own association. The Bengali association, Tamil association, Telugu Samaj, this Samaj, that every city of the or every at least state will be having its own association. They will keep meeting. They will celebrate their local festivals. They'll make themselves feel that, okay, even if we are far, we are for each other. In spite of being far, we are for. So all of this is going on to the zone of extended identification. And because of that, the false ego, it is very difficult to uproot it. So when one actually does that hard work, that's known as pralaya. When one uproots one's false ego, that's known as atyantika pralaya. There are four types of pralaya. Srimad Bhagavatam explains 12th canto, 4th chapter. One is known as Naimittika Pralaya, one is known as Atyantika Pralaya, one is known as Prakritika Pralaya, and one is known as Nitya Pralaya. So Nitya Pralaya is that which happens at every moment. Like the moment we began the discussion today, and right now, we have changed. The body has changed. The time has changed. everything is changing. And with the change, that exact change that is happening at every moment, that's also known as pralaya. And that pralaya is ongoing pralaya, nitya pralaya. That's changing. Then next pralaya is known as naimittika pralaya. That happens occasionally. Whenever Brahma is kind of sleeping, Brahma remains awake for 12 hours of his equations and remains asleep for 12 hours. And that 12 hours of his is so many years for us. But when he is sleeping, that's known as Naimittika Pralaya. When his life ends, Brahma's 100 years has finished, that's known as Prakritika Pralaya, that is elemental annihilation. But Srimad Bhagavatam does not go deep into that, but really goes deep into Atyantrika Pralaya. What is that ultimate annihilation? When the living entity decides that I don't want to identify with anything material, and he removes all the layers of his identification. That's what is explained in this purport as Neti Neti. I am not this body. I am not a Maratha. I am not a Sikh. I am not a citizen. I'm not a green card holder. I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm so on and so forth. And I'm not the father, I'm not the son, I'm not this, and when we conclude with all of that, who am I ultimately, then um, our identification comes to this conclusion that yes, I am supposed to be um, eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also would say this verse is quoted in from Padyavali, Rupa Goswami's book, and it's also quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita Kaviraj Goswami. He says, Naham viprunachara narapati nabivaishyo na shudro naham varni nacha grihapati no vanasto yatirva किंतु प्रोद्यन्निखिल परमानंद पूर्णमात्मदेर गोपी भरतुर्पद कमलोयोर्दास दासानुदासः. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also is keeping this, what Srila Prabhupada is explaining in this purport. Na neti, neti. So neti, neti generally is understood that okay, I'm not this, I'm not this. So what am I? Ultimately, I'm Brahman. So that is another concept which the Mayavadis kind of conclude to, but that's not what Prabhupada is wanting to emphasize here in this purport. Neither is that which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is putting in. What is the understanding is removing all the identifications. I'm not I'm not the entities that I have put myself in my forefront. Just because I'm having a certain color of body, I'm having a certain um, way of speaking, some language, or some um birth of a particular place, does not make me limited to that. So neither is it that I have remained in a particular ashram, or I'm indulged in particular way of earning my livelihood makes me that. So that's why these identifications that Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra are the ways of earning livelihood, and Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi are the various status of ashrama life. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, and each of this will be having its own preambles, its own limitations, its own restrictions. That's that makes us all the more attached to it. Attachment is very deep. So let us say someone, I don't know, if any of you have any experience of construction that happens in a house. I don't know in US how it's happened. It's mostly with wood, right? But in back in Bharat, it happens with the bricks and the cement and the concrete and all that stuff. And once that is done, the masons will do all the stuff and keep things, but then the someone has to come up and pour water onto it, you know. So when the person who is owning the property personally, and he comes and just pours water onto it, ensure that every pore of that wall gets sufficient water, which is making that whole thing very strong. That simple act can also make him completely attached to that property, something that has I have invested upon. Because when one is investing time, consciousness, and some endeavors for anything, one gets very easily connected to and attached to. Just like Brahma also sometimes gets attached. So he is praying, please. My only prayer is, may I not be uh, bewildered by my own creation, and that with the pride that I have created it. So, so these are various ways in which one can get delusioned due to false ego, because then one starts identifying with some property, with some land, with some image, with some color, with some birth, with some um, you know language, and that's what makes us um, very much bewildered with this world. So to get out of it, what is our identification? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Gopi Bhartu. So he straight away goes to Gopi. Gopi are the servants of Gopi Vallabha. And Bhartu, their servants, and servants of the servants of Gopi Vallabha, their feet, pada, Kamalayo, lotus feet, Das Das Dasanu Dasaha. So that means servant of the lotus feet of the servant of Gopi Vallabh. You know? So that is our identity. That is the identity that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught us. So when we are in this identity, what does it mean? It means that I have not got anything which I can enjoy. All the things that I am having is meant for service. All the time that I'm having, all the energy that I'm having, all the intelligence that I'm having, all the power that I'm having, all the speech that I'm having, all the intelligence, all the things that I'm having is only meant for one purpose. What is that? Service of Gopi Vallabh, not mine. So this is what identification change, transformation of identification can bring. So this is some thoughts on this verse. We have time till 9, right? Really? I mean, so some basic thoughts on this verse, but the point remains that when we are looking forward to uh, take shelter of the Lord with this mood, then also there are problems. Like we understood, okay, I am not the identifications that I have identified with, and slowly layer by layer we pull it off, just like we peel a banana and there are layers to that, and then that which remains in the core. Similarly, we also peel out various layers of our identifications, and we make ourselves try to find out our original self, that's known as Atma Sakshatkar, the self realization. So when we do that, even after knowing the concepts as such theoretically well, but still to implement it on a practical level becomes a challenge. So for that, Srila Prabhupada pulls in one more single small statement in the purport. Can any of you identify that thing?
Sorry.
Yeah. So he says that, Prabhupada says that, one must gradually reject all the material elements, like not this head, not this fingers, not this hands, and the combinations of material elements in the body. Then, if one is expert and follows the Acharya, he can understand that he is the spiritual soul living within his body. So, this brings the discussion to another concept, another level, that in spite of our own discussions, analysis, conclusions, we will not be able to come to this clarity until and unless we are blessed. So, this blessings of the Acharya or the spiritual master is something that's a prerequisite to self realization. One will be getting self realization only and only if he is blessed. And that's what is another thing which, as devotees, as aspirants, as students of Srimad Bhagavatam, we should be really looking forward for, to ask, to seek for blessings from everyone. Generally, we may sometimes speak, please bless me, or we may speak, or we may also bow down to devotees, vancha kalpatarubhyascha. But due to some things that we keep doing very regularly, then we may not actually understand the value of it, the greatness of it. And because of which, that mood of bowing down might not actually pervade. So, spiritual life means to be conscious. Krishna consciousness is being conscious about Krishna. And when we are doing various activities of our spiritual life, like chanting, reciting, reading, hearing, associating, serving, all of that should be done with this proper mood, proper consciousness. And with that clarity, when we are serving and learning and remaining humble, then only we will be able to access that mercy. So, yasya prasada, bhagavat prasado, yasya aprasada nagati kutopi. All the innermost truths of spiritual life cannot be grasped. One cannot gain it by his own self. No matter what all books we may read, what all lectures we may hear, what all things we may do, but all the innermost truths and going to that platform of not connecting with the matter can come only and only if one is getting blessings of devotees whom Krishna loves. So this is something that we as devotees should be looking forward for, because without blessings, you know it's not possible for gaining any spiritual realizations. So, because as we discussed, we cannot grasp Krishna. Krishna only reveals himself to us. The holy name reveals himself to us. The deity reveals himself to us. We cannot, the Dham reveals the Dham himself to us. We cannot go and see it. We cannot see the deities. We cannot understand the spiritual truths. So, if we want to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, we have to approach Srimad Bhagavatam. We have to bow down and seek blessings from devotees who love Srimad Bhagavatam, who have dedicated their conscious efforts and time for loving Srimad Bhagavatam, for propagating Srimad Bhagavatam. So all of these aspects, the Dham, deity, the holy name, Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Vaishnavas, that means the spiritual master, all of them are Krishna, representatives of Krishna, and Krishna, five Mukhyanga, five most potent limbs. And all of them have got good, huge amount of potency to give us Krishna. At the same time, that we can really um, appreciate and accept only when there is blessings. So, what to do to seek for the blessings? How to gain the blessings? Any thoughts? Serve. Yes, thank you. We need to serve. What else? How to gain blessings, huh? That's what. How to get that? That's the question. Huh? That has answered. Any other thoughts? Following instructions and rendering service, but with the clarity to please that person. We need to serve to please. So when that person is pleased, or Srimad Bhagavatam is pleased, Krishna is pleased, and how to please, that's also mentioned beforehand only. So if there is pleasure of Krishna, pleasure of the devotees, and pleasure of Vaishnavas, then naturally that blessing outpours. So sometimes devotees will go and please bless me, they will kind of go down, but then they've done nothing to please that person or please Prabhupada by propagating the mission or rendering some service, taking some burden of love. So by all these things, we can please the Lord. When we cook to please the person whom we are wanting to feed. When we are dressing, we dress to please the Lord. So with all the activities that we do, it is meant for pleasure of the person who we want to serve. So service has to be done with a mood to please. That's how blessings descend. For the pleasure of the person. So that's very important. Uh, when we love a person, that love also is meant for pleasing the beloved. So, like that, when we want to love Srila Prabhupada, love our spiritual master, love the devotees, then that also should come to this conclusion that okay, to love means to serve means to sacrifice, but that should be done with that goal that that person should be pleased. So that pleasure is something that we should be looking forward for while we serve. And with that, automatically, you know, by if the person is simply pleased, there will be blessings. And that blessings is something that we cannot earn with any other currency other than to serve. So with that, we can get this clarity, this realization, and these teachings. And the opposite is also true. If we displease, if we offend, if we trouble a Vaishnava, then that by the grace by which we were able to see the absolute truth, that will become blurred. You'll not be able to see the truth. And then everything which we might be propagating and preaching to many, the same things might not be visible to us only. So the opposite also stands true. That's why it's very important that we keep remaining humble and act in a way to simply serve, to please the devotees. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any thoughts, any reflections, any questions, any comments, any here kind of. We are open for some discussion now. Pardon? Prakritika is elemental annihilation. When he leaves his body, 100 years of Brahma. Naimittika is when he is sleeping.
This point I was thinking that this when they are serving, then there is a very important thing that service should be done with that keeping clarity that the service is actually the end goal is to please. There's some Vaishnava always because every service is connected to of course the Lord, but there's some devotee also who's representing the Lord also. So it's a very important thing. And of course our Guru. So through devotee you please our Guru also. So I mean it is so important not to get lost and not find the connection. The things are so connected. So, so this is a very important point that because sometimes we become attached to service, the way we want to serve, the conditions in which I want to serve. Now, there's so many factors come up,
Yeah.
and then we get lost. And then we think, oh, why this not like that, why this way, like that. There's so many things come. Why it is taken, why it is not given, or why it is given that way. So many different things. And we can get into scriptures and so many things.
It's the manifestation of the false ego.
Yeah. The possible is not easy, as you said, that I think it really requires that sincerity and genuineness. At least we can pray to the Lord, give me intelligence to please the Vaishnavas. Sometimes we don't know what to do, or we're not understanding our nature, this and that. But at least we can pray to the Lord. This principle, what Gopal has told, yes, sir, topmost principle.
Yeah.
So, how to please my Guru? So, this is the fact we can pray genuinely and sincerely and give me the intelligence by which we can um, gradually overcome this dark forest of false ego. It's very tricky. False ego is not so easy. It's the last thing to go. It's not easy. So when at least we can be humble to see that actually I'm so devoted that to the false ego and humbly try to see that how I can approach for this principle of find the peace. Otherwise, it's a very, very attached.
Yeah. Once I was discussing with one devotee, he was telling that I don't know what pleases my spiritual master, but I do know what displeases him. So I may not be able to please him, with whatever I may do, but at least I should not do anything that will displease him. So that also took me to another, understanding that okay, it's not just doing that which pleases, but also not doing that which displeases. It leads to the same goal, but it's two different facets of the same thing. So we may like okay, appreciating devotees pleases. Sometimes we may appreciate, but one thing which we should be more careful is that which displeases. So then, offending devotees or troubling devotees or politicizing that displeases. That is no choice. At least I should not displease if I cannot please too much. That also brings us to another. Is any other thoughts?
The more thing I remember, it's not small thing, but it's very really striking. Raj was saying, we were in Kartik as well. It was 11 or something, I'm not sure. In Vrindavan, we were there. And then I was South India.
11 and 13 was
11.
Vrindavan.
I think it would be 11. So there, I was mentioning other day also that how you are saying that there are people who are doing Danvat Vaitama. So not everybody may be having the impression of bhakti. So many of them may be, Raj was mentioning that doing such severe austerities, 108 times, going down and getting the floor and and like that. So saying ultimately they want to get rid of the false ego. They're trying their best. And then we say, but we don't do that. So we can simply, have nice, wonderful yatra. Can hear Maharaj for 2 hours, 3 hours nicely. Take nice prashadam. Go from service water we can go and go with devotees around. And you get excited, you get free. You become perfect. You have to become pure devotee. You get free. It's such a sublime way to get rid of all these layers of falsehood. Simply taking shelter of Acharya, one can be helped. Otherwise, many lives will fall short to actually come out of this falsehood. Like the last year of mine is that I'm only God. So very personally just trapped in that. So there's no way out practically without taking shelter of Acharya.
Yeah.
Even their own way.
Mm. Actually, the reason bhakti is the easiest, fastest, highest, simplest process amongst all the other processes of jnana and karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, ashtanga yoga, bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga is easiest, highest, fastest, simplest, and most powerful process. The reason is that bhakti yoga it directly works on the false ego. all other yoga, it eventually layer by layer pulls the divinity out. But Bhakti Yoga strikes straight. So hearing for 2 hours, when we hear the glories of Krishna, when we hear our actual position, then that's a bigger jolt to the false ego than doing 108 times Dandavat. Because the false ego, I mean, when one, that's the process. Srinvatam Sukatam Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana. If one just simply hears the truth, that's what Prabhupada simply is told, just simply sit and hear and everything will be perfect. Why? Because when you hear, when devotees hear, then they start chanting, then they start reading, then they start following the principles. That's why hearing is so important. But hearing hits at the false ego straight. It just makes us really rethink about our identity. And if this identity is put in its proper place, then that is all that one has to work upon. So that's why bhakti is so easy yet so sublime. Because it hits straight in the policy. Thank you so much. Yes, Prabhu, I'm sorry.
Just one thing is, it's
It's very, always remember, it's very easy to please the spiritual master and the devotees. It's like for a little kid. It's very easy for them to please their parents. It's not so yeah, it's easy to please the spiritual.
Thank you, Prabhu, for giving us this encouragement.
When you said Bhakti Yoga directly, it's the
Straight.
false ego straight. Other yogas, like they go step by step, layer by layer. So
And may not reach the false ego also.
yeah, so because it hits directly the false ego, like does everyone, I mean, will be able to take the process? I mean, like will all the people like who takes to the Bhakti process will make it to the end, or like because it directly skip all the steps and directly goes to the false ego?
Yeah, because that's what it is easy. Any other process that we have, it will be having its limitations. Limitations because there is prerequisite. If someone wants to practice Jnana Yoga, then there are prerequisites, because before you come to Jnana Yoga, beginning of it, you have to leave certain things of this material world. Bhakti Yoga, it does not, no one questions, who is coming in, what is caste, creed, color, what are the habits, what are the, anything, any entrant is okay, no problem. So that's what is Bhakti Yoga is universally applicable to anyone. That's why Prabhupada opened a house in which the whole world can stay. Right? Now, this is Sambandha. The Abhidheya process, one has to do the same thing. Everyone has to work hard. Beginning, anyone can join in, anyone can begin the practices. But the practice does not, kind of gets diluted. So one kind of starts to do Shravanam, and when one hears, that hearing process is very jolly process, very happy process, very because it is not troubling. Like, what is that? Susukam kartum avyayam. One does it very happily. We go to some forest, some place, like we go to falls and New Hampshire or Vermont, and have a good retreat. And and ultimately what we do there is Shravanam. We go there and we hear, right? So when we hear, then we gain, go deeper in our own equations, our own bhakti, our own spiritual life, and continue with our lives. So in Bhakti Yoga, one does not have to give up anything. One just has to keep hearing, and automatically, layer by layer, by the time he is gradually, all the negativities of life automatically go away. And when one also performs the all the bhakti processes, different limbs like Archa Vigraha and visiting dhams, so other layers also gets worked upon. So that also one gets slowly purified. But when one hears and then one chants and then one follows the spiritual master, that is the very unknowingly we are giving up that which is extremely difficult to give up otherwise. Unknowingly, one is not even aware of how the process works, but it works and works very fine. Suddenly one starts feeling, well, why am I so bothered? Because I'm not this body. The soul, I'm supposed to simply bother about loving Krishna. And then Prabhupada puts like Krishna at the center of everything. Then one wonders that is what is true ego. And with this true ego, one can immediately go to spiritual ego. That's it. The last layer of our the five elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, the body, and subtle elements, the mind, intelligence, and false ego. The last layer is the false ego that one has to give up when this Atyantika Pralaya happens. So the Jivatma, he gives up one by one all those layers, and when he has to go out of the material world. And the last layer is the false ego. Most difficult. And Bhakti straight away pulls out that it is not troubling, but it is working on the core like that. It's not, one should not feel insecure. Oh my God, that's too much of a thing, all of a sudden. But no, that's what Susukam Kartama. Patipadam Purna Amrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Supratipadam Purna Amrita Aswadanam. Every step of bhakti, one experiences complete nectar and it keeps increasing. Anandam Buddhivardhanam. At Anandam is bliss, it keeps increasing. Ambudhi means an ocean. You have an ocean nearby, right? Wonder an ocean that keeps increasing every moment. That's what is bhakti. So it's very blissful process, it's very serene process, yet it's fastest, it's highest, it's simplest, yet it's fastest process compared to any other process. Because it works straight on the core. Like, so one should be encouraged by understanding this, not troubled down. Like that. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam Mahaprana ki jai. Hare Krishna. Please forgive me if I spoke beyond my realization. Beyond my scope.
Bhakti process is difficult.
It's difficult for the difficult, simpler for the simpler.
Maybe he says in terms of the philosophical speculators and all. And they will say that, okay, these are sentimentalists.
Yeah.
Let us do it.